So I was born in Kenya in a small, maybe right now it's not a small place, but it's a place called Baringo. And then my dad used to work with the government, so he moved a lot. So we moved a lot around Kenya. And then when I was 13, my dad kind of came and told us, hey guys, we're moving to Canada. I felt like I kind of knew that we were going to, and you know, that sounds really weird, but I always felt like in my spirit that I'm not going to grow up in Kenya. And it sounds so weird to say, but I used to watch like, you know, American TV and all that stuff. Yeah. And I always kind of just knew that I would grow up somewhere else and kind of somewhere where like Americans were. But at the same time, I was like, Canada, I thought we're moving to America. So it was like kind of like I was excited, but at the same time I was like, what is Canada? Like, what is there? I didn't even think that there'd be Black people in Canada. I was so, I guess, just like I never thought of Canada ever. So I just thought that, okay, you know, this is like a random country. And I remember the day we like packed up and sold all our things and my uncles came. You know how, you know, in Africa when you like move, everybody comes to say goodbye to you. So all my uncles came to the hotel because we moved into a hotel and then we flew off. And I remember the last time I could like see myself pulling away from Nairobi going to the airport, like the city going to the airport, and that image is still like ingrained in my head, like just the background, kind of leaving it behind. Like I don't know if it really meant anything to me at the moment. I think it was just kind of like excitement, but then also kind of you feel like you're saying goodbye to your home. Yes, I knew I was going to miss my friends, and I did miss my friends a lot. Actually, when we eventually moved, I did miss them a lot. But at the time when we were saying goodbye, I was like, nah, I'm ready. Whatever it is, I am ready, yeah. The first time, I think I was just like nervous. And I think like my brothers, you could like just see it. And I think we were all just a bit like not sure how we were gonna fit into this new environment, so we were all very shy. Like I think even like the first day when we went to school, we were all just so scared, but everybody was really nice and the school was very multicultural. That's actually one thing that I appreciated. I was just like, I think it was like a shock because I was expecting to see just white people. And then here you're in this school and it's very multicultural. There's people from all over the world. Yeah, but we were still the obvious stranger.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
because of our accents. Yeah, kids, I think, and especially in American schools and Canadian schools, kids are mean. That's when I knew what bullying was. Like, you get bullied. It does not matter who you look like, what you look like, what your dad does.
Where your dad works.
Where he's working. Nah, they just don't care. So we, like, I think all of us, we were, like, bullied to some extent. And now that I like even think about it, it made me miss Kenya so much. And I was like, oh my goodness, I miss this is like when you start missing, it starts to hit you. And you start missing your friends. And it took me so long to like feel comfortable in Canada. It actually took me 4 years, like about 4 years. And you still miss home. Yeah. And I even wanted to go back. I remember I told my parents, I was like, you know what? You guys could stay here. I could go to boarding school in Kenya. I've always been like a go-getter person and had always had like that personality from a very young age. So I even looked at schools. And then my uncle in Kenya said, no, there's no way you're going to just allow your only daughter to like come back by herself. Because I was like, I'm don't like it here. I feel like I'm not fitting in. Let me just come back home. Let me just come back home and like, you know. But also it's like that age where you're trying to find your identity as well. Like you're like a teenager, you're trying to find, okay, who am I? Like, how do I fit into this new environment? Yes, it's very multicultural. There's different people, but how do I fit into this weird dynamic? So here you are, like it's different. Everybody is kind of going through their own challenges and experiences, and we're all just trying to figure out, okay, how can I? And I think as a teenager, you're just trying to figure out how could I solve this issue that I might even be experiencing internally. And then at the same time, like when, I guess, so it's 5 years in, and my dad basically had a work term in Canada for 5 years. So now my parents had to make a decision. Do we And I think that's when I started to kind of like feel like, okay, I'm accepting that this is now where I'm meant to be, and this is my place, and this is home. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, we have to make this decision. Do we want to all go back to Kenya, or do we want to stay here? At that point, my parents decided that we're all going to stay in Canada, because I think my mom just wanted us to have something more in the future, like options, option-wise. And going back to Kenya would have been okay. And I think it would have been comfortable, but we wouldn't have had the options that we currently have. Would I have gone back at that point? Probably not. Because I think at that point I was already feeling more comfortable. I felt like more comfortable in Canada than and now Kenya is kind of like starting to fade away a little bit. That almost like home feeling is starting to fade away. So we went back after 9 years. But this is something that I actually still struggle with today. I don't really have a sense of home. I think it's because I've moved around so much, even when we were younger. So there's no like, even when I go back to Kenya, I feel like that is home for that time and that period. And there's things that I miss about it. Like I miss not having my cousins around and growing up with them and being able to like, you know, just go and see them whenever I want to see them, and not having my grandmother around. But then when I go back to Canada, I still feel like that is home. And now that I'm even here, I feel like this is home. And I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I don't have like in my mind, I don't have a sense of home. Like home for me is not necessarily like a physical place.
Oh my God.
It's not a place. It's
like,
people. You just have to have like good people. And in like a, you know, obviously as Christians, it's like a good church. And somewhere where you feel like you're grounded. But that could be for a season, and then, you know, God could be like, pack up and move somewhere else. So I finished my uni. And then after I finished my uni, I started working as an accountant. I did accounting as my degree, and I started working as a tax accountant. So that was my first job. And that job, when I was doing it, I feel like in the beginning I was very happy, and I was like, yes, this is what I've always wanted to do. Now, here I was like 2 years after I graduated, I'm working, but I wasn't happy. I was even trying to do like, you know, the certification exams, and I wasn't doing well in them. And I knew like there was something out there, there was something else out there, like in my spirit. I didn't know what it was. And the funny thing too with this one, I also kind of knew like I wasn't in the right place, like where really God wanted me to be. And I was like, okay, I know this is not where I want to be, and I know this is not what I want to do, but I don't know how to get myself to the place where God wants me to be. So I actually spoke to somebody, and I spoke to one of my managers at work. Bad idea. I went and opened up to my manager, and I was like, you know what? I feel like I need to be, I feel like I should do something different. And you know, this was somebody who I kind of looked up to like as a mentor, and I was like, okay, I feel like it's like a safe space. And we used to have these one-on-one, and my place that I worked, they had this like open door policy, and I was like, oh, open door policy, I can come and tell you everything I'm feeling. Bad idea at the time, but now that I look back, I'm like, you know what, it's fine. And, you know, like when employers are getting ready to dismiss you, you know, they brought like another staff member, and they're like, you could train this person, and I was there like kikiing, you know, laughing, like showing them the what is it, the role, and just kind of like getting them like used to the work. And long and behold, this person was here to take my job. And I was there like, you know, boo boo the fool, like just. I remember the day that it happened. They called me to the office. They sat me, like it was 2 managers, and it was like this really big boardroom, and I was like, I know something is up. I know something is up. And like a few days later, I was supposed to go on holiday. It was so bad. They decided to do it like so that I could go and cry on my holiday. And it was like Christmas holiday. So I could even be so far and cry and really cry away from them. Wow. So they come into the office, they told me, you know what, like, you know, your position, and also the company was going through like a restructure. So I was like one of the people who kind of wasn't really fitting with the team. And yes, I had said, you know what, I am looking elsewhere, but I didn't think that, that would ever affect me negatively career-wise. So I ended up losing that job, but it was all, literally was God. And I think God was taking me out of that place, because if he had allowed me to stay there, I would have still been there right now. I would have stayed there because I wasn't ready to like take the leap of faith and move on my own. Now, obviously, I lose my job. I cry. It takes me a while to like get myself together. I go home. So I was going back to Kenya. I went to Kenya for Christmas. I came back kind of like refreshed with a new mindset. I decided to take that year off, like completely off. I didn't do anything.
Wow.
And it was just like, I think also God was like working through some things with me. And he was like, the season, I'm about to take you into a new season, and I need you to use this season to rest. Because, yes, the next chapter is going to be exciting, but at the same time, it's going to be challenging. So it was like a season for just resting. I think when I went back to Kenya, I knew like God was very clear, like take even longer. And that's one thing too. I was so drained and I was so tired. I finished uni and I went straight into the workforce. So there was no break, there was no like holiday, there was no like gap year. I just, I went into like the next chapter.
Wow.
So this was like me taking time to just renew, refresh. So during this year, I applied to do my master's, and I was like, you know what? If I'm going to do something different, I'm going to go big.
You said go hard or go home.
Go hard or go home. So I had always wanted to travel to Australia, and this was like my chance. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go and do my master's and just see how it is. So I applied. I got accepted during that year that I was like taking time off.
Wow.
I organized everything. I didn't have, like everything together, like in terms of like fees and
like
in terms
money
like all
side.
the money side and even,
Vision.
but the vision was there. Like I was like, you know what, God, you're gonna walk me through this. Yeah. And my parents were like super excited. My dad had actually done his master's in Australia, so he was like, go for it.
Yeah, oh, that's
Yeah,
cool.
like go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
At the time, also my cousin was here, but she was in Queensland, so she was also like kind of like another sounding board. I went to her, packed up my stuff, then went back to Kenya for another holiday. And then came to Australia because my mom, like everybody because it was a year. So I went back to Kenya for Christmas again and then flew to Australia. It was so exciting. Oh my goodness. I still remember this like it was yesterday. And just when I was coming back, my manager, the one who had fired me, reaches out to me and they're like, would you like to, so her husband was working in a different firm and they were hiring. So she was like, would you like to go and work for his firm? And I was like, you know what? I am going. Like, I was so excited. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to look back. And maybe that was also like, and I don't want to, like, she's a lovely person. Like, even right now when I think about just even everything that happened, I still really appreciate her as like a manager. But I was just like, nah, like I'm gonna go after what really God wants me to do. So I said no to the job and moved to Australia, and did my master's. And I think it was it's been, even right now when I look back, it's just been such, like, it was like the most exciting time for me, because I met so many different people like who are in different stages of their lives. I was probably one of the youngest people who was doing the program. Very naive, like, what are you doing? What are you doing here? You need like a few more years of experience to like be here. But everybody is just amazing. I met one of my best friends in the program, and even that was just like divine appointment. And sometimes, God's favor and God's grace could be good health. It could be, people. It could be so many other, it could be even just people who bring you food.
Amen.
The story of Joseph, and I mean, I didn't go to prison or anything like that, but in the Bible, I feel like the most person that I could relate to is Joseph. In the Bible, God gives him a dream, and he's like a dreamer. And I also just like always get very like prophetic dreams as well. So that's how God speaks to me, is through dreams. And it's not like he gave me a dream of Australia or anything like that, but you know, he speaks to me through dreams. And even just like sometimes you could just hear God's voice, and he's speaking to you. He's like, this is the place I want you to go. So Australia was kind of like that, you know. I felt like God called me here, and specifically to Adelaide. Like, you know, I could have gone anywhere else. Actually couldn't, because the States are very expensive. Yeah, he gave me enough grace for Adelaide. Yeah. Oh, so many things happened during that season of now moving. So this is after I finished my degree. You know, my parents are kind of helping me out. I have enough money just to get me by.
Right.
But now I need to like decide, am I going to go back to Canada or am I going to stay here? My parents are like, you need to come back because, girl, we're cutting off.
Weird.
We're cutting off your support, like your food, you know, paying for your food. You need to get a job, because we've done this for a year and a half. And I don't know why I didn't really like work hard to get a job when I was in school. I think I was just like enjoying that season. But now I was now on my own and trying to apply for jobs when you're a foreigner and like you know, temporary visa. It's so hard, especially in Australia. Now I can like, you know, Canada was different, because Canada, when my dad left, when we were no longer in the embassy, my mom was there, you know. So like, yes, someone. You know, I was an immigrant, but still, like, it was my mom who kind of took the burden of that struggle. But then here, I'm by myself. So what do you do when you're kind of in a place where you don't really know what, like, I guess the fruit doesn't taste like the promise. You kind of try and do things like you did it before in a different season. So I got a job, and I wanted to go back to sort of like that accounting path, because that's what I knew. Like, I was like, okay, what is the easiest way to make money is to try and go back to that path. And I actually got a job. Like, I got a job in something similar, like a similar role, and that job ended as well. I'm now going through that same sort of like hurt and pain that I did in like Canada, you know, where a job like comes to an end. And after this, I didn't have a job for 4 months. So the money that I had saved for like working for 2 months, I had to like use it for that 4-month period. But I also think the reason why God didn't allow me to be successful in that job is because I was going to go back to what he had taken me out of.
Say that again.
I was going to go back to what he had taken me out of. The people now that God placed in my life, like now my friend Tish, she basically like walked me through that season. Because here I am unemployed in a different country without my family. My mom and dad are like, girl, you better come back. So I used to live with Tish, and she, you know, provided shelter for me. Literally provided shelter for me. And God used her in my season of struggle. And then, you know, God now, there was even now a season where she went through something, like a very amazing testimony that she will definitely come and share. And so she goes through this, you know, journey as well. And, you know, it's like God used her in my season and me in her season as well. And beyond just her being, you know, somebody that sort of was there like when I didn't have anything, you know, also God used that season to build us up in a different perspective. And, you know, I think this is where I sort of discovered my purpose. So we started a project when we were at uni, and it was kind of like, you know, let's just do like this course. We did this course. It was like an entrepreneurship competition course. We did it together. We came up with a business idea, and it was around empowering women and entrepreneurs. So we decided to start this business, and we're just like, you know, always networking with women entrepreneurs and trying to basically increase their participation within the ecosystem here in Adelaide. So, you know, that's kind of what I did a lot when I didn't have a job. I volunteered with the uni. I was either mentoring or, you know, just doing something within that space. going out, meeting people who are doing different businesses. And, through my project that I started in a season where I didn't have a job.
Yeah.
Actually, yes, I had started it before I lost my job. But then I think when I didn't have that job, it kind of grew.
Right.
Yeah. So through that startup is how I landed my next job here. And I'm still working there today. Tish and I actually went to meet the CEO together. We had like coffee with him and we were just talking and we're talking about our business. And, I think I told him like, I'm also looking for a job. Because obviously starting a business is one thing, but sometimes a business takes a very long time to start making money.
Yeah.
So you need to have money in order to like feed yourself. So I basically tell him, you know what, this is a business that I'm doing, but I'm also looking for a job. And he invites me to like meet the team. I think it was like a few weeks later or something.
Yeah.
And somebody was going to mat leave from that organization, and I basically stepped in to cover their mat leave. During this season, I basically used that job to get actually myself like another job, which covered my cost of living and everything like that. But it's also the thing that allowed me to now stay in Australia permanently. So now when it came to do my permanent residency visa, I actually went through like another temporary visa, which was like an entrepreneurship visa. So I did that first. So you can come here, you can with an idea, and you can try and create an opportunity. So the idea with the government is what they're trying to do is that they're just trying to bring that mindset and to build that ecosystem even bigger, because you can come here with one idea and that idea could change. So that's now what I used to like apply for my permanent residency eventually. And then I got it. So now years later, I can look back and I can be like, I lost that job in Canada and it was for a purpose and for a reason. And then I came here in Australia and I tried to go back to sort of that path, sort of to that finance and work as like accountant or a finance, person, but it didn't work out because God was like, no, that's not the path that I want you to go to. I want you to sort of go into this like new, it's still business, but it's like a different space. And even through that season where I was volunteering and I was helping out at my uni and mentoring, God opened now a job for me with a uni where I can now teach. And that just came literally, somebody just sent me an email and they're like, would you like to do this, to help out with this course?
I hear your story, I'm just like, wow, God.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You really did it.
Yeah, God.
You just come here and, because obviously during your journey, you're going to have moments where you doubt.
Yeah.
You can hear God.
Yeah, do you know how many times I went through that? You could even tell Tish. There was so many times where I was like, you know what? I'm packing up. Wow. Next month, I am going. I looked at tickets so many times. You doubt.
Did I really?
You doubt. And I feel like if you don't doubt, you're not human. Yes, we're called, and some people have faith, like a gift of faith, like really believing that this is going to come to pass.
Yeah.
But I think the human in us really has to like question, because sometimes God gives you these visions and these dreams that are like, like Joseph, in the Bible, it was like, you're going to be, rule over your brother. Like, who are you? Like,
Well, actually, you're right, because the Bible does say, come, let us reason together. So God doesn't want us to be able to be in conversation with you. Yeah.
So, where I can see like, this was a promise from God, is that God will keep sending confirmations along the way. Right. Like, still stay on this path. And then there's some things where God will be like, let it go completely. Ooh. Yeah. And then maybe God could bring that promise back in a different season and it will look different. And then sometimes you have the desire in your heart, but not necessarily God's promise or God's will. So you just have to, I think identifying the differences is God will keep reassuring you along there, because he knows you're going to doubt. He knows you're going to be like,
we're human.
Yeah, we're human. So he will keep reassuring you along the way. don't be scared to fail. Because I think as just people, we're conditioned to be like, I cannot fail. And I think we're so scared to fail. But once you fail, like the first time, like when I failed, when I got fired and lost my job when I was in Canada, it was like, that was so painful. And I think it was because I was always such a good student and always doing really well, you know. And then here I was like failing. And then, you know, it happens again, and it's okay. It's like, it's okay to fail. It's okay to, you know, for things not to work out the way you had envisioned them. So just be okay with it. Like, I think we should embrace, and I wouldn't even call it failure. I would call it redirection.
Oh,
yeah.
Do you know what? No, I feel like you're speaking to me.
Like, I guess maybe if I could look back now, if I could go back to like 18-year-old self, I would probably tell myself, you know, you're going to be successful, maybe not in accounting, but maybe in something different. Because it's not that God didn't promise success after I graduate or finish school. He just didn't promise it within that specific, what I thought it was going to be. And I don't think I would say like I've arrived, but I think I'm in the right place. So I think,
which is huge.
This right now, like Adelaide, Australia right now, is like the right place
for right now.